The goal of this speech is to inform and persuade you to help combat climate change. Many people are making changes to their policies and procedures to day to day activities to reduce their carbon footprint. To help combat climate control, the government has created stricter emission laws, which has led to the development of the diesel particulate filter. The diesel particulate filter only helps so much as all it does is trap the soot. Then, when the filter needs to be cleaned, the system resorts to a regen or regeneration process. This is when the exhaust heats up to elevated temperatures, heating the soot up to the point of oxidation. The regeneration system has its flaws as it can fail and they often need to be replaced. At other times, to save money, some people can attempt to bypass the system, which does not help with the emissions it lets off. This has led my research to diesel fuel alternatives, which have drastically reduced the harmful emissions left after combustion compared to that of diesel fuel. My goal for this speech is to draw your attention to the problem of diesel emissions affecting climate change and offer better alternatives to help reduce its impact. Diesel is used in many aspects of life, such as hauling freight, whether it be over the road or by boats overseas. To ensure that enough freight gets moved around to supply the people of the world, it is shipped overseas. These ships have massive engines that burn a lot of fuel. There are thousands of commercial vehicles that are out there every day delivering freight to each city. Diesel is also used in everyday life, such as public transportation, and some people use it as their fuel source in their daily drivers to get around the city that they live in. Over time, this produces a lot of harmful pollutants in the air, and as the government has made attempts to combat this, there's only so much that can be done sticking to one type of fuel source. If we reduce the number of harmful pollutants from the start of the process by changing to another fuel that is just as effective but produces less harmful pollutants, then we are starting off better than we were. If we start off with less emissions and find a way to reduce them from there, I'm sure we can get as close to zero harmful pollutants produced. Lower emissions, in turn, gives lower impact on the environment. One such alternative is liquid natural gas, as it produces less harmful pollutants than that of diesel. A study done by the Department of Mechanical and Aerospace Engineering in Italy compared the emissions let off from buses traveling throughout the city. This was done to show the benefits of each type of fuel alternative to that of using diesel. It compared to the fuel emissions of diesel, liquid natural gas, and hydrogen fuel cells. Ships are starting to adopt these engines as their alternative fuel source. Another alternative is hydrogen fuel cells, which are just in the beginning stages of development. These can be shown in everyday vehicles such as Toyota's Mirai or Hyundai's Nexo. It is in the beginning stages but shows great promise, and hopefully in the future could be incorporated in commercial vehicles, but the main problem starting off would be the fueling stations. The byproduct of hydrogen fuel cells is water and electricity, which would drop air pollution for vehicles to zero and reduce the impact on climate change. The power produced by these cells will only get more powerful as well as last longer as they work to improve them. Even though these are good in theory, with them attempting to implement them out there in the world today, they still have a long way to go to improve the system needed to perfect these alternative fuel replacements. One of the major problems is currently running into the available fuel stations out there. The best option so far I can find is the hydrogen fuel cell vehicles, but the ones out there now are expensive compared to other vehicles, which in turn causes people to avoid purchasing them. As environmental laws in the vehicles get more popular, the need for them will increase, causing them to produce cheaper alternatives. And lastly, these options are not readily available to everyone. There are other ways to be helpful to climate change, and that is to reduce your carbon footprint by not wasting electricity as well as driving less or carpooling.